Welcome to Sacred Stillness, a place not for the loud or the strong, but for the quiet souls who carry battles no one sees, for the ones who smile in the daylight but unravel in the dark, for those who pray not with perfect words, but with trembling hearts. This is where your silence is heard. This is where your ache is not too much. This is where God meets you, exactly as you are. And tonight's prayer is for the ones who don't know who they are without the pain. Because sometimes you wear sorrow so long it becomes your name. You nurture your wounds like they're the last thing keeping you real. And the thought of healing, it doesn't feel like freedom, it feels like erasing yourself. But maybe, just maybe, there's still a version of you waiting beneath the ache, one who's not defined by what hurt you, but by the softness that still lives inside you. So if you're ready, not to be fixed, not to be perfect, but simply to be held, then come closer. Let's whisper this prayer together, in the dark, in the stillness, where God listens and healing begins. Before the pain had a name. Hey God, can I tell you something I haven't told anyone? Sometimes when the world goes quiet, when the lights are low and no one needs me to pretend, I try to remember who I was before the pain had a name. Before I became the person who flinches at joy. Before I learned to brace for disappointment, even in moments meant to be beautiful. I think there was a me back then, a version of myself who laughed with her whole chest, who dreamed without caution, who loved without waiting for the goodbye. But that person feels like a ghost now, like a blurry photograph I can't quite hold on to, like a voice echoing through a hallway I no longer walk down. I miss her. And the strange thing is, I don't even fully remember who she was. I just know she didn't carry this weight in her chest. She didn't fear happiness. She didn't assume love came with strings or that safety would always end. She was soft. Not weak, just soft. Open to life, open to wonder, open to you. And I can't tell if she was naive or if I've just forgotten how to live. Maybe both. But I miss the way she looked at the world like everything was still possible. I miss the way her heart beat freely instead of behind locked ribs and silent defenses. She used to walk barefoot in the grass and sing to herself while washing dishes. She didn't carry stories of abandonment in her bones. She didn't scan every conversation for hidden danger. She just existed. Whole, unwounded, unaware that someday she'd spend years learning how to breathe again. And God, sometimes I feel guilty for missing her. Because life happened, and grief came, and loss became part of the air I breathe. But still, there are moments, quiet, fragile moments, where I sit in the dark and whisper, where did I go? Not in bitterness, not in blame, but in wonder. Because somewhere along the way, I stopped being her, and I started becoming the version of me who apologizes for taking up space, who doubts every good thing, who watches life through a window instead of stepping into the sunlight. I didn't mean to disappear, but I did, and I don't even remember when. Maybe it was after the first heartbreak, or the third, or the day I realized people leave, even when they say they won't. Maybe it was the season I stopped praying because I thought you weren't listening. Or maybe it was the 1,000 little moments I swallowed my voice just to be loved. God, I'm not asking you to erase the pain. I know some things can't be undone. Some wounds become part of who we are. But I wonder, can you help me remember? Not the facts, not the timeline, but the feeling. The feeling of being whole without trying so hard. The feeling of being loved without wondering if I deserve it. The feeling of waking up without dread pressing on my chest. Because I think if I could just touch that girl again, just for a moment, I might believe she's not gone. I might believe she's just buried under layers of survival. And maybe, with your help, I can start peeling them back. Gently, tenderly, no rush. Just a soft unraveling. Until I remember the sound of my own laughter, until I remember how it felt to sing in the car without rehearsing all the things I should have done better. Until I remember how to be with myself without flinching. I want to believe she's still there, God. Even if she's quieter now, even if she limps a little when she walks through joy, even if her eyes have seen too much, maybe she's still me. Just a different kind, a wiser kind, a braver kind, but still soft somewhere deep inside. So tonight, before I ask you to heal me, before I beg you to take away the ache, can you just sit with me in this remembering? Can you hold the version of me who used to dance in her bedroom without shame? Can you whisper to her that she's not lost, just waiting? Waiting for me to come home to myself. Because I'm tired of only knowing myself through the lens of grief. I want to meet the me who didn't yet know what it meant to break. And I want to tell her that even though life got heavy, she was never forgotten. She was never truly gone. She just needed someone, maybe even you, to help her find her way back. So I'm listening now. I'm ready now. To remember, to return, to become again.
A quiet collapse. Hey God, I don't think anyone saw it happen. There was no explosion, no sobbing on the bathroom floor, no dramatic cry for help. Just silence. A quiet collapse that began in the small, invisible moments. Moments too subtle for the world to notice, but heavy enough to bend the bones of my soul. It started with waking up tired, even after sleeping for hours, forcing a smile that didn't reach my eyes, saying, "I'm fine," when I didn't even know what fine felt like anymore. I showed up, I worked, I laughed when I was supposed to, but inside, I was unraveling, like a thread pulled too tightly in a sweater no one sees coming apart. There wasn't a single moment where I broke. It was 1,000 small cuts, 100 swallowed feelings, a quiet disconnection from myself that deepened with each day I ignored the ache. And the world, it kept turning. People said, "You're so strong. You're always smiling. You've got it all together." If only they knew that the smile was armor, that the strength was survival, that every day felt like a battle just to stay upright in my own skin. But I didn't tell them, God, because how do you explain that the hardest part of your day is simply existing? How do you say, I'm tired of pretending I'm okay when no one even knows you're pretending? So I carried it all. The questions, the grief, the guilt, the fear, tucked it into quiet spaces, folded it into my shoulders, let it sit behind my eyes like a storm that never made a sound. But you saw it, didn't you? You saw the way I sat in the shower just to feel something. You saw the way I turned up the music to drown out my own thoughts. You saw the way I walked through my days like a ghost of the person I used to be. And maybe I thought if I kept going, if I kept doing what I was supposed to do, eventually the numbness would lift. Eventually someone would notice. Eventually I would feel like myself again. But I didn't. And still, I didn't break. I didn't fall apart in a way that others could see. I didn't scream. I didn't cry for help. I just faded, like fog against a window, like a light dimming slowly over time. And that kind of pain, the kind that's invisible, it's the hardest to carry, because you start to wonder if it's real. You start to believe you're being dramatic, that you should be over it by now, that you're the problem. But you knew the truth. You knew that I was drowning with my feet on the ground. You knew that I had learned how to disappear without leaving the room. And God, I think I'm still learning how to come back. Because when you spend so long pretending, you forget what it feels like to be real. You forget what it means to tell the truth without shame, to show the cracks without fearing they'll make people leave. I want to be honest now, not just with you, but with myself. I want to say, I'm not okay, without following it with, but it's fine. I want to admit that sometimes I miss who I used to be so much it aches in my chest. That sometimes I want someone to just sit with me and say, I see you. I believe you. You don't have to carry this alone. But most of all, I want to stop collapsing in silence. I want to feel safe enough to break out loud, to cry without apology, to feel without fear, to speak without editing myself into something more palatable. God, I don't need you to fix me right now. I just need you to sit with me in this quiet, in this space where my strength ran dry and my mask got too heavy. Let me rest here. Let me breathe here. Let me learn that I don't have to earn comfort, that I don't have to be perfect to be held. Because maybe this collapse, as quiet as it's been, isn't the end. Maybe it's the beginning. Maybe it's the space where I finally stop performing and start becoming. Maybe this stillness is the doorway back to myself. Not the version the world wanted, but the version you see. The one who's honest, the one who's soft, the one who's tired but still trying. So hold me here, God, in this sacred quiet, in this silent unraveling, in this moment where I admit I've been breaking for a long time. And now I'm ready to begin again.
Pain became familiar. Hey God, is it strange that pain feels like the only thing I truly recognize? I don't mean that in a dramatic way. I'm not trying to sound broken for the sake of it. But somewhere along the way, pain stopped feeling like an intruder and started feeling like a friend. Not the kind I ask for, but the kind who never leaves. the one that shows up uninvited, settles into the quiet corners of my mind, and stays, even when everyone else walks away. It became familiar, predictable, even comforting in its own twisted way. Because when you've been hurt enough times, you stop waiting for joy to last. You start bracing for the fall before you even touch the sky. And that's what I did, didn't I? Every time something good came close, I flinched. I sabotaged. I pulled back. Not because I didn't want it, but because I didn't trust it. Because pain taught me that good things don't stay, that love turns cold, that safety can vanish overnight. So instead of reaching for hope, I clung to what I knew. And what I knew was hurt. What I knew was waiting for the apology that never came. What I knew was walking through life with my guard so high no one could reach me, not even you. And I hated it, but I also needed it. Because when the world becomes unpredictable, pain becomes the one thing that feels consistent. It's always there. It doesn't lie. It doesn't pretend. It just is. And maybe that's the saddest part of all. Not that I hurt, but that I learned to trust the hurt more than the healing. I wore it like armor, let it shape my expectations, my relationships, my worth. I stopped dreaming big, stopped loving fully, stopped asking for more. Because pain whispered, "This is all you get. Don't ruin it by hoping." And I listened. I listened to the lie that said I was too much when I cried, too needy when I asked, too weak when I longed to be held. I built my identity around survival, not thriving, not joy, just making it to the next day with my soul intact. And I know, God, that's not how you created me to live. But I didn't know how to unlearn it, how to loosen the grip of pain when it became the only thing that felt real. Because healing felt like a risk, like stepping out onto a floor that might collapse under me. And I was too tired to fall again, so I stayed where it felt familiar. Even if it hurt, even if it numbed me, even if it silenced the best parts of who I am. And maybe that's why I'm praying now. Because I don't want this anymore. I don't want pain to be my compass. I don't want fear to be the voice I obey. I want something else. Something softer. Something braver. Something holy. That I'm scared, God. Because what happens when I let go of what I've known? Who am I without the sorrow I've used to define myself? Who will I be if I stop measuring my worth by how much I can endure? I don't know, and I think that's okay. Because maybe the first step isn't becoming someone new, but simply recognizing that pain was never supposed to be my home. It was a chapter, not the whole story. It was a storm, not the climate of my soul. And you, God, you've been patient with me. You never rushed me out of my grief. You never scolded me for being afraid to feel better. You just waited. Waited with gentle eyes and open arms, ready to lock with me when I was finally ready to leave the familiar and step into the unknown. So here I am, timbering, still tender, but willing. Willing to believe that life holds more than just lessons in loss. That healing doesn't mean forgetting, it means remembering with grace. Willing to hope that I can write a new chapter where pain isn't the narrator. Willing to trust that I can feel joy without apologizing for it. And if that's true, if I'm allowed to grow beyond the grief, if I'm allowed to soften again without losing my strength, then God, help me begin. Help me trust you more than I trust the ache. Help me release the rhythm of sorrow and find a new song in my bones. One that doesn't begin with heartbreak, but with wholeness.
The fear of letting go. Hey God, I know you've been whispering to me. Softly, patiently, lovingly, telling me it's okay to let go. But if I'm honest, I'm scared. Not because I want to stay in this place forever, not because I enjoy the ache, but because this pain has become familiar. It's been with me longer than most people have. It's been my shadow, my shield, my explanation for why I flinch when someone gets too close. And if I let it go, if I release this heaviness I've carried for so long, what will be left? What if healing empties me instead of filling me? What if all the parts of me that knew how to survive have no idea how to live? There's a version of myself that only knows how to function through pain. She's methodical, protective, sharp when she needs to be. She walks through life like a soldier, always expecting war. She doesn't trust soft things, doesn't relax when it's quiet, doesn't believe love will stay. And you're asking her to let that go, to put down the sword, to take off the armor, to stop rehearsing every possible goodbye. But God, I don't know how to exist without defense. I don't know how to walk through a day without scanning the horizon for something to break me. Letting go sounds peaceful, but it also sounds dangerous. Because what if I get hurt again? What if I let myself laugh and life interrupts with another loss? What if I trust someone and they leave? What if I open my hands to joy only to feel them close again on emptiness? I've built walls for a reason. Not because I hate people, not because I love being alone, but because experience taught me that vulnerability comes with a cost. And now you're asking me to risk it again, to let the pain go, to unlearn the hypervigilance, to stop gripping the sadness like a life raft. But God, what if the pain is the only thing holding me together? What if it's the thread that keeps me from falling apart completely? I know that sounds backwards, but that's how it feels sometimes. Like the ache is what makes me real. Like the sorrow gives my story weight. Like if I stop hurting, I won't know who I am anymore. And yet, there's a whisper in me that longs for more. More than survival, more than reflexive flinching, more than being known by what I've endured. There's a softness in me that remembers what it felt like to be light. And she's tired of carrying so much. So maybe, just maybe, letting go won't be the end of me. Maybe it's the beginning. Maybe healing isn't about forgetting or pretending it didn't matter. Maybe it's about remembering
without reliving. Maybe it's about learning that the pain was real, but it doesn't have to be permanent. And I think I want that, God, even if it scares me, even if it leaves me trembling in the dark, even if it feels like shedding my skin and not knowing what's underneath. Because I've been in this place for too long. Too long clutching my wounds like credentials. Too long shrinking my joy out of guilt. Too long pretending I'm fine when I'm simply numb. I want to feel again, not just sorrow, but peace and safety and sacred rest. But I can't do that if I keep holding on to the things that were only meant to pass through me. So help me, God. Help me let go of what was so I can make room for what could be. Help me trust that I won't disappear if I stop being defined by my wounds. Help me believe that I can be held by love even without the story of heartbreak at my side. Because maybe letting go isn't about losing something. Maybe it's about becoming someone I've always been underneath the pain. And if you promise to walk with me, if you'll take my hand as I loosen my grip, then I'll try. Not all at once, not perfectly, but honestly. Today, I'll loosen one finger. Tomorrow, maybe two. And someday, maybe I'll open both hands and discover I was never empty to begin with. Just afraid. Afraid to let go of the pain because I didn't yet believe you would be there to catch what falls. But now, I'm starting to believe you will. And that's enough for today.
People say move on. Hey, God. People mean well, I think. They see the way I linger in places that hurt me. They see how my eyes still drift to the past like it holds pieces of me. And they say things like, you've got to let it go. That was a long time ago. You'll feel better once you move on. But God, what if I don't know how? What if I'm not holding on because I want to, but because I don't know who I am without the memory? What if moving on feels like leaving behind a version of myself I haven't made peace with yet? I know they're trying to help. I know they want me to smile again, to laugh freely, to fill the silence with something less heavy. But when someone tells you to move on before you've even been seen, it doesn't feel like encouragement. It feels like erasure. Like my pain is an inconvenience. Like my grief is outdated. Like my wounds should be on a deadline because they make others uncomfortable. But God, you've never rushed me. You never said, hurry, heal, get over it. You just sat with me when my healing had no timeline. And I think that's why I'm here now. Because I need the kind of love that doesn't flinch at brokenness. The kind that doesn't hand me a calendar and ask me to be whole by next week. The truth is, grief doesn't wear a watch, and trauma doesn't follow polite schedules. Sometimes you don't even know how deep the wound is until someone brushes past it. And then you flinch and they say, oh, that still hurts you? Yes, it does. Not every day, not every hour, but sometimes a song, a scent, a sentence can pull me back into something I thought I buried. And in those moments, the last thing I need is pressure to perform wellness. I don't need advice. I don't need timelines. I don't need reminders that I should be over it by now. I need compassion. I need patience. I need the kind of space where I can say, I'm still healing, and not feel ashamed of that. Because moving on is not about forgetting. It's not about pretending it didn't happen. It's not about forcing joy into places that still feel tender. Sometimes moving on looks like sitting still until your heart catches up with your body. Sometimes it means honoring the wound before you try to walk again. Sometimes it means whispering, "I'm not ready yet," and trusting that readiness is not a race. So God, can you help me block out the noise? Help me silence the voices that measure my growth by how quickly I bounce back. Help me tune in to the slower rhythm, the one you set for my soul. The one that honors both sorrow and softness. The one that lets me take my time without guilt. Because I don't want to move on just to appear okay. I want to move forward because I've been held, heard, and healed. I want my healing to be real, not rushed. I want to carry the memory with reverence, not resistance. I want to live with peace instead of pretending. So if moving on means letting go of pressure, letting go of performance, letting go of the expectation that I must be done grieving by now, then yes, God, help me move on. But not in the way they say. Help me move on the way you do. Slow, sacred, still. With you beside me, not forcing me forward, but gently walking with me into a softer tomorrow. Wounds that defined me. Hey God, there's something I need to say out loud, even if my voice trembles while saying it. I let my wounds define me. Not intentionally, not proudly, but over time, they became the map I followed, the story I believed, the mirror I looked into every day. Every scar etched itself into my choices. Every heartbreak became a boundary. Every moment I was hurt rewrote how I saw myself and how I assumed others saw me too. And eventually, I didn't need the pain to speak anymore because I spoke for it. I told myself, "You're hard to love. You're too sensitive. You always get left. You should know better by now." And I wore those stories like names I never agreed to, but never fought against either. Because when something happens enough times, you stop questioning if it's true. You start assuming it must be. And I did, God. I let the wound become the voice of reason. I let disappointment shape my expectations. I let fear drive every yes and every no. I stayed small in rooms I longed to be seen in. I backed away from people who got too close. I avoided mirrors when I didn't feel worthy of kindness. Not because I wanted to hide, but because the pain told me I belonged in the shadows. And after a while, I stopped arguing. I let the wound speak louder than your truth. I believed what hurt me had more power than what healed me. And now, I'm realizing how much of myself I've left behind in the process. God, I want to find her again. Not the naive version of me, but the one who existed before she started translating her worth through broken lenses. The one who didn't flinch at compliments. The one who didn't second-guess joy. The one who didn't define herself by the way others mishandled her heart. Because I'm tired. I'm tired of measuring my value by how little space I take up. Tired of mistaking emotional bruises for identity. Tired of calling myself strong when what I really am is still hurting. So help me, God. Help me untangle the stories
that were born in survival but don't belong in healing. Help me remember that my wounds are part of my journey, but they're not the whole path. They're not my name. They're not my future. They're not the ceiling of who I can become. Yes, they shaped me. Yes, they left marks. But I refuse to let them be the only lines written across my life. I want more. More than defense. More than fear. More than being the person who always assumes love will walk away. I want to be defined by peace, by tenderness, by truth. And I want that truth to come from you, not from pain, not from loss of all the ways this world failed me, but from the still, unwavering voice that says, "You are loved. You are whole. You are not your damage. You are becoming something beautiful." So tonight, I surrender the old definitions. I lay down the labels I never asked for. I release the lies that clung to my healing like thorns. And I ask you, God, rewrite me. Gently, patiently, with mercy. Show me who I am, beneath the bruises, beneath the armor, beneath the years I spent mistaking survival for identity. Because I want to live a life not narrated by fear, but by freedom. And I believe, with you, that's still possible.
The mirror I avoid. Hey God, there's a mirror in my room I don't look into anymore. Not because I don't care how I appear, but because the reflection doesn't feel like me. I glance quickly. I check for what needs fixing. I make sure I'm presentable. But I don't linger. I don't let myself really see, because seeing means facing. And I'm not sure I'm ready to face the person I've become. Not because she's shameful, not because she's broken, but because she's a stranger, a survivor, a fighter, a quiet soul who's carried too much for too long. And somewhere along the way, I forgot how to recognize her without her pain. I look into the mirror, God, and I wonder, where did the softness go? Where did the fire in her eyes disappear to? Where's the laughter that once came easily? The playfulness, the light? I see exhaustion now, eyes that have memorized sadness, shoulders that sit a little lower than they used to. Not defeated, but different, like someone who's seen too much and learned to brace for impact. And it hurts to admit I miss the old me, not because she was better, but because she wasn't burdened. She didn't carry the weight of every goodbye. She didn't watch her own smile with suspicion. She didn't second-guess her worth just because someone else couldn't see it. But the woman in the mirror now, she hesitates. She flinches when complimented. She rehearses conversations. She guards her heart even when no one's reaching for it. She's kind, yes. Strong, absolutely. Resilient, deeply. But also tired. So tired. And I think what breaks my heart most is how easily I look away from her, as if she doesn't deserve to be seen, as if visibility requires perfection, as if I must wait to love her until she looks more like who she used to be. But God, that reflection, that's me. It's me. Scarred, quiet, changed.
but still here, still breathing, still trying, still longing for softness, even if I've forgotten how to embrace it. So tonight, I want to do something different. I want to look, really look, into the mirror and not turn away. I want to say to her, I see you. You've survived things no one knows about. You've carried pain that wasn't yours to carry. You've loved deeply, even when it hurt. You've grown in silence while others watched only your stillness. I want to honor her journey, not just mourn what she lost, because maybe she didn't lose everything. Maybe in the shedding, something sacred remained. Maybe she's not just a reflection of suffering, but of endurance, of courage, of grace unfolding in real time. And maybe if I stop avoiding her, I'll learn to love her again. Not as a past version I'm chasing, not as a future self I've yet to become, but as she is, right here, right now, tender, true, and becoming. God, will you help me stop hiding from myself? Will you remind me that worth isn't measured by energy or beauty or flawless healing? Will you stand with me at the mirror and whisper truth over every part of me I've been afraid to see? Because I think I'm ready, not to pretend, not to perform, but to see and be seen, to say, this is who I am today, and to believe it's enough.
The ache beneath healing. Hey God, no one told me that healing would hurt too. Not in the same way pain does. Not sharp, not sudden, but something quieter, deeper, almost unexplainable. An ache that lingers beneath the joy of progress. It's strange, really. This grief that lives inside the healing. I thought getting better would feel like rising into sunlight, like breathing easy, like walking free. And sometimes it does. But other times, it feels like loss. Like I'm saying goodbye to something I never meant to hold on to, but did. Pain became a part of me, God. Not because I wanted it to, but because it stayed long enough to feel like identity. And now that I'm loosening my grip, now that the sadness isn't as loud, now that I'm starting to breathe without bracing, there's a silence I didn't expect. A hollow space where the ache used to live. And I don't know what to do with it. Because part of me misses the weight. Not because I want to suffer, but because at least I knew who I was when I was hurting. There was structure to the sadness, a script I'd memorized, a rhythm to the sorrow that, in some strange way, felt safe. But healing? Healing is unfamiliar. It's soft, and softness feels risky. It's quiet, and quiet makes room for all the questions I buried beneath the pain. Questions like, who am I now? What do I want without the wounds telling me? Will anyone recognize me if I stop performing the role of the one who's been through so much? And do I even recognize myself? I thought healing would be a destination, but it feels more like an unraveling. Not falling apart, just shedding. Layers of defense, layers of identity, layers of everything I thought I had to be in order to survive. And underneath, it's tender, raw, new, like skin that's never seen the sun, like walking barefoot on unfamiliar ground. And God, I don't know how to be this version of me yet. I don't know how to live without preparing for loss,
without translating every silence into abandonment, without expecting every good thing to turn sharp. But I want to learn. I want to let the ache beneath the healing become a place of curiosity, not fear. I want to honor the space left behind as something sacred, not shameful. Because maybe that emptiness isn't empty at all. Maybe it's room for something new, something beautiful, something holy, like joy that doesn't ask permission, like peace that doesn't have to be earned, like love that isn't measured by how much pain came before it. Maybe this ache isn't a sign I'm doing something wrong. Maybe it's proof that I'm finally releasing what was never meant to stay. So God, if healing feels hollow tonight, can you fill that space? Not with noise, not with distraction, but with presence. With a whisper that says, it's okay to feel this way. You're not going backward. You're not broken for missing what you're healing from. This is part of becoming. And maybe, if I sit with the ache instead of running from it, I'll find that it's not emptiness at all. It's capacity. For hope. For joy. For the version of me who doesn't just survive, but lives. And I think that's what I want most. To live. Not perfectly, not always joyfully, but fully, even when it aches.
A whisper for the me inside. Hey God, there's someone inside me I haven't spoken to in a long time. Not you, though sometimes I forget how to talk to you too. But her, that quiet version of me who once believed the world was safe, who once felt wonder before worry, who once loved freely without needing to protect her own softness. She's still here, somewhere, buried beneath the noise, the pain, the stories I've told myself to make sense of the hurt. And I miss her. I miss her even though I don't know how to reach her sometimes. So tonight, I want to whisper to her, gently, patiently, without pressure. I want to say, hey, I remember you. The way your eyes lit up when you dreamed. The way you cried during movies and didn't apologize for feeling too much. The way you held people close without waiting for them to let go first. I remember your lightness, not because life was perfect, but because you still believed it could be beautiful. You weren't afraid to try. You weren't afraid to love. You weren't afraid to be seen. And somewhere along the way, life got loud and heavy and complicated. And you started hiding. Not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. Because pain taught you that not everyone would handle your heart with care, that not everyone could meet your depth, that softness sometimes got mistaken for weakness in a world that rewards armor. So you put on your shield, you adjusted your tone, you stepped back. And I don't blame you. You did what you had to survive. But now I want to come find you again. Not to rush you, not to drag you into a version of life you're not ready for, but to remind you you're still wanted, still needed,
still worthy of being known. You're not too much. You're not too emotional. You're not a burden. You're the part of me that still knows how to feel fully, how to hope bravely, how to love without fear. And I don't want to live without you anymore. I know you're scared. I know you've been silenced by disappointment. I know you've watched people walk away after promising to stay. But I'm not leaving. I'm not rushing you. I'm not demanding a version of you that feels easier. I just want to sit with you, here, in this quiet place, and tell you it's safe to be seen again. God, can you help me speak to her the way you've always spoken to me? With kindness, with slowness, with the kind of grace that doesn't need performance or perfection. Help me welcome her back without guilt for how long she's been gone. Help me make space for her wonder, her softness, her deep sensitivity, the kind that used to make her feel strange, but is actually sacred. Because I don't just want to heal the parts of me that hurt, I want to reconnect with the parts of me that hid. The ones that went quiet, the ones that shut down, the ones that used to sing. And if that means sitting still, listening longer, and letting tears fall when they need to, then I'll do that. Because I don't want a life that's numb and safe. I want one that's real, even if it's messy, even if it means starting from scratch. So to the me still inside, I'm here, and I'm listening, and I'm sorry for forgetting you. But I'm not forgetting anymore. You matter. You always have. And from now on, I will protect your softness, not silence it. I will carry your wonder, not dismiss it. I will honor your voice, even when it shakes. Because you're not what broke me. You're what's helping me become whole. And I love you.
If you see me, God, hey God, if you're still listening, and I believe you are, can I ask you something? Do you see me? Not just the version I show the world, not the polite smile, not the composed voice, not the strength everyone admires but few understand. I mean, me, the real me, the one who still cries when no one's around, the one who carries old wounds like heirlooms, the one who walks through healing like it's sacred and terrifying at the same time. Because some days, I wonder if I'm still visible beneath all this pain. If I've buried myself so deep under survival and sorrow that even you might not recognize me. But then something happens, something small, a breath, a quiet, a whisper in my spirit that feels like you, and it says, I see you. I still see you. Not as broken, not as failing, not as too much or not enough, but as becoming. And I want to believe that, God. I want to believe you see the me beneath the layers, beneath the doubt, beneath the armor I learned to wear too young and wore too long. Because I don't always feel seen. Sometimes I feel like a shadow in other people's light,
like background noise in someone else's story. And I start to wonder, if no one notices the ache, did it ever matter? If I cry and no one hears, am I still worthy of comfort? If I stop performing pain, will I still be held? But you're not like them, are you? You don't need me to fall apart dramatically to know I'm hurting. You don't wait for me to scream before you draw near. You come close in the quiet collapse, in the breath I hold too long, in the sentence I never finish because emotion swells too quickly in my throat. You see me. Even when I hide, even when I doubt, even when I stare into the mirror and don't recognize my own reflection, you see the one I'm still becoming, the one who's softer now, not because life has been kind, but because she chose not to let it harden her completely. The one who still reaches for you, even when she's unsure how to pray. The one who wants to believe she's lovable, even when she's not performing for approval. So God, can I ask you this? Will you hold me tonight, not as the broken girl I've tried to fix, but as the sacred soul I've forgotten to see? Will you remind me that I'm still yours, even when I'm in between? Even when I haven't fully let go of the past, but haven't fully stepped into my healing. Even when I feel fragile and flawed and deeply unsure. Because I don't want to be held for what I do, or how well I heal, or how much I've overcome. I just want to be held for who I am. The quiet me, the honest me, the still struggling but still hoping me. I want to feel your arms around the version of me that doesn't have answers, that doesn't know what comes next, that isn't tidy or triumphant, just tired and trying. Because that version, she's still me, and she's still worthy of love. So God, if you see me, will you stay? Stay with the unspoken, stay with the undone, stay with the questions and the trembling and the deep aching need to know I'm not alone in this in-between. Because healing is holy, but it's also hard. And tonight, I don't need solutions. I just need to be seen. Not fixed, not figured out, just seen. By you.
Becoming someone new. Hey God, I think I'm becoming someone new. And I'll be honest, it feels strange. It's not loud, not dramatic, not the kind of transformation that makes headlines or breaks chains overnight. It's quiet, subtle, like dew gathering on grass before sunrise. There, but unnoticed, unless you're really looking. And I think that's how change works sometimes, right? Not in big moments, but in the soft, steady choices to keep going, to keep healing, to keep showing up, even when the pain no longer screams, but still whispers. That's where I am right now. Somewhere between the person I was and the person I don't fully know yet. I'm shedding old stories, letting go of versions of myself I built around survival, releasing roles that felt safe but no longer fit. And in the quiet that follows, there's fear. Not because I'm unhappy to change, but because I don't know who I'll be without the familiar weight of sorrow. I've known pain so long, it became part of my personality, part of my rhythm, part of how I made sense of everything. But now, as I gently loosen my grip, I'm realizing something. I can't become who I was meant to be while clinging to who I had to be to survive. So I'm letting go.
Not because that version of me was wrong, but because she was temporary. She helped me endure. She carried me through the storm. She kept breathing when everything inside me wanted to shut down. And for that, I'm grateful. But I don't need to live in defense anymore. I don't need to narrate my life through the lens of loss. I don't want to be defined by what I've made it through, but by who I'm still becoming. Even if I don't have all the words yet, even if I don't feel fully healed, even if I still cry some nights and carry questions I haven't answered. Because becoming isn't about perfection, it's about permission. Permission to evolve. Permission to release old definitions. Permission to walk in a softer direction without needing a map. God, will you walk with me as I step into this unknown? Because there are days when I want to run back to what's familiar, even if it hurt. Because at least I knew it. But now you're inviting me forward into newness, into gentleness, into a version of myself who doesn't flinch at love, doesn't apologize for her light, and doesn't shrink to fit someone else's comfort. And that sounds beautiful, but also scary. Because what if I'm wrong? What if I outgrow people who meant a lot? What if I disappoint the ones who only knew me as the broken one? And what if this new version of me isn't instantly lovable? But then you whisper back, you're already loved. Even in the becoming, especially in the becoming. And something in me exhales. Because maybe I don't need to have it all figured out. Maybe it's okay to walk slowly toward who I'm meant to be. To try, to stumble, to learn softness again. Maybe becoming isn't about knowing, but about trusting. Trusting that if you're leading, I'm not lost. I'm just changing, and it's okay if others don't understand that yet. It's okay if some people only knew the version of me that smiled through pain and held everything together. Because I'm allowed to become someone who no longer needs to bleed for love, who no longer lives in constant self-sacrifice, who no longer translates worth through suffering. God, thank you for walking with me through every version of myself. For not rushing me, for not demanding clarity, for loving me in process and in progress. Help me keep stepping forward, even if the steps are small, even if they shake, even if I can't see the whole path. Because I'm not trying to be perfect anymore. I'm just trying to be honest, present, alive. And becoming someone new feels like the first time I've truly started to live.
Soft again, not weak. Hey God, for a long time, I thought I had to be hard to be safe. Strong meant silent. Brave meant guarded. Healing meant showing no cracks. I believed softness was dangerous, a liability, an open door for disappointment, an invitation for betrayal. So I shut it all down. I hardened. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. Because when you've been hurt enough, softness starts to feel like a risk you can't afford to take again. I told myself, don't cry where they can see you. Don't love too deeply. Don't care too much. They won't do the same. And I thought that made me strong. But God, that wasn't strength. That was fear. Fear dressed up as control. Fear dressed up as independence. Fear pretending it didn't need tenderness anymore. And maybe it protected me. Maybe it got me through the worst of it. Maybe it kept my heart beating when everything else felt shattered. But I miss softness. Not the kind that gets taken for granted, but the kind that lets love in. The kind that lets tears fall without apology. The kind that holds someone's hand and doesn't pull away first. The kind that lets laughter echo without fear of what comes next. I want that again. I want to feel without flinching, to love without armor, to rest without suspicion. And I know that doesn't mean I'll never be hurt again, but maybe it means I'll stop hurting myself first by assuming I have to be stoned to be safe. So tonight, God, teach me how to be soft again. Help me unlearn the lie that softness is weakness. Help me believe that tenderness is strength. Because it takes more courage to open your heart after it's been broken than it ever did to close it. It takes more strength to stay kind in a world that taught you to be cold. And it takes more faith to keep reaching for connection after rejection taught you to retreat. I want that kind of strength. The quiet kind. The sacred kind. The kind that doesn't roar, but whispers. I still choose love. I still believe in peace. I still belong to grace. Help me soften, God, but not into someone naive, into someone wise and wide open. Let my softness be fierce in its refusal to grow bitter. Let it be wild in its willingness to feel. Let it be brave in its trust that I can be vulnerable and still be whole. Because I don't want to live a life built on avoidance. I don't want to numb out everything just to protect myself from disappointment. I want to be fully alive, fully human, fully held even in the moments that feel fragile. So if I cry more easily now, let that be a gift. If I feel deeper than before, let that be an offering. If I love slower, softer, more intentionally, let that be holy. Because I'm not weak. Not for breaking. Not for weeping. Not for healing out loud. I'm strong because I kept my heart open in a world that tried to shut it down. And with you, God, I'm learning that I don't have to prove my strength by hiding my softness anymore. You see me. You know me. And you call this tenderness beautiful. Who I am without the pain. Hey, God, I've spent so long surviving, I forgot who I was before the pain. And now that the wounds are closing, now that I'm no longer bleeding every day, now that the sadness isn't my only language, I find myself quietly asking, who am I without the pain? For so long, it was the lens through which I saw the world, the filter I used to measure my strength, my story, even my worth. It shaped my posture, it shaped my voice, it shaped the way I held my heart like something too fragile to share. But now that the ache has dulled and the grief has softened, and I'm no longer carrying that same heaviness in my chest every day, there's space. And that space feels unfamiliar. Not bad, just empty. Quiet. Waiting. And in that quiet, I'm starting to wonder, what else was buried beneath the pain? What joy did I silence just to keep things manageable? What dreams did I defer because I was too tired to imagine a future? What parts of me were left in the dark while I was too busy tending to the wounds? I want to meet those parts again. The ones that laugh easily, the ones that dance without needing a reason, the ones that wake up with curiosity instead of dread. Because healing is beautiful, God, but it also leaves you standing in a field you don't recognize. The pain is gone, but so is the version of me who built her identity around it. And I'm not trying to go back. I'm not trying to become who I used to be. I just want to know who I am now. Without the ache, without the fear, without the constant need to explain my pain in order to feel seen. Who am I when I no longer feel like a burden? Who am I when I don't have to earn rest? Who am I when I'm no longer carrying the same weight I once thought defined me? I think the answer, if there is one, will come slowly. In moments. In mornings when I feel light for no reason. In conversations where I don't feel the need to mention the hurt to prove I've grown. In silence that doesn't feel lonely anymore. So God, help me step into this newness. Help me resist the urge to retreat back into what was hard just because it was familiar. Help me trust that peace is not a betrayal of my past, it's the reward of making it through. Help me see that healing doesn't erase what I've endured, it honors it by letting me live beyond it. I want to find joy that isn't tinged with guilt. I want to explore new parts of myself without apologizing for no longer being in pain. I want to love from overflow instead of emptiness. Because I think the truest version of me was never the wounded one. She was the one underneath, the one still breathing, still hoping, still waiting to be known in softness, in wholeness, in light. And maybe I don't need to have all the answers. Maybe becoming who I am without the pain isn't about arriving. Maybe it's about unfolding. Maybe it's about being still enough to let love rise in the places where grief once lived. So tonight, God, I'm not asking for clarity. I'm just asking for presence. Stay with me as I meet myself again, as I learn what I love when I'm no longer surviving, as I discover what freedom feels like when it's not followed by fear. Because I'm not who I was, and I'm not who I'm going to be, but I'm here, alive, healing, becoming. And that is already more than enough.
I am still me. Hey God, we made it here. To the other side of something I thought would break me. To the place beyond the survival. To the quiet after the storm. And I need to say it out loud, not because you don't know, but because I need to remember. I'm still me. I've changed, I've grown, I've let go of things I once thought I couldn't live without, but underneath it all, beneath the layers of grief and healing, beneath the armor I wore and the silence I survived, there's still me. Still soft, still curious, still longing for peace and connection and meaning, still hopeful in ways I didn't expect to be again. And God,
this realization feels holy. Because I spent so long thinking the pain had rewritten me completely. I believed the wounds were permanent, that I'd never feel light again, that I'd never trust myself without the ache beside me. But now, I see. Pain shaped me, yes, but it didn't erase me. It made me tender. It made me wiser. It made me slower to judge and quicker to offer grace. But it didn't destroy the core of who I am. In fact, it revealed her. The one who stayed, the one who endured, the one who never stopped whispering beneath the chaos, "I'm still here." She waited. Through every heartbreak, through every lonely night, through every whispered prayer that sounded more like a question than a belief, she stayed. And now, I get to return to her. Not as a stranger, not with shame, but with reverence. Because she held the line when I forgot there was anything left to protect. So tonight, God, I want to thank you for never giving up on me when I gave up on myself, for seeing through my numbness and still calling me by name, for waiting without pressure, loving without condition, and healing me in places I didn't even know were broken. You taught me that I didn't have to be whole to be loved. I didn't have to be loud to be heard. I didn't have to be fixed to be seen. You sat with me in the ache, in the quiet, in the long middle of not knowing who I was becoming. And now that the pain is quieter, now that I'm no longer building my life around the fear of falling apart, I want to say something I couldn't say before. I love who I'm becoming, not because she's perfect, not because she has it all figured out, but because she's honest, because she can cry and still show up, because she can rest without guilt, because she no longer believes that being loved means being small. She's learning to take up space, to breathe fully, to ask for what she needs without apology. And maybe most sacred of all, she's no longer afraid of her softness. She's no longer ashamed of her story. She's not performing pain just to feel valid. She's simply being. And that is enough. So God, as I step into this next chapter, this new rhythm, this new relationship with myself, remind me gently that healing is not forgetting. It's remembering who I've always been. That wholeness is not the absence of pain, it's the presence of peace, even after the pain. That becoming someone new doesn't mean losing the core of me. It means finally making room for her to rise. So when I look in the mirror now, I don't see a stranger. I see a survivor, a seeker, a soul who stayed tender when she had every reason to grow cold. And in that reflection, I see you too. I see grace. I see love that never left. I see the holy thread of your presence woven through every season I thought I wouldn't survive. I am still me, God. But now, I know it. I feel it. I believe it. And I bless it. Every scar, every detour, every tear that watered the roots of who I am now becoming. So hold me here, God. Not because I'm broken, but because I'm whole. Not because I need fixing, but because I'm learning how to rest in the beauty of finally being me. Not in pieces, not in hiding, but fully, freely, gently.
Still me, always me. And maybe, for the first time ever, that's exactly enough. End of prayer. This final whisper is a return, not just to peace, but to yourself. Your softness is sacred. Your presence is worthy. You are not what hurt you. You are not what left you. You are what stayed. You are still here. You are still you. And that is holy.